Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby.
I don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
Well, welcome to Katz and Cosby. We're on the eve of the debate. And are we on the eve of destruction? Of course, the big debate. Everyone's expecting it will be the biggest listenership and viewership in American history. I can't wait to watch,
I think
John.
So. I think everybody, because the future of America depends how things happen tonight. And let's go across. Ed Cox, how do you feel about it?
Biggest debate since the Nixon-Kennedy debate, and that was the first TV debate.
Governor Patterson?
I'll watch it since the Subway Series is over.
Oh, speaking of which.
Governor Patterson, you've been given credit nationally that you are the guy that's taking the Democratic Party in New York and bringing it closer to the center.
Well, I don't know that was my original intent. It's just that I think that there are political disagreements and disagreements on issues. But when certain candidates take a tone that is so antithetical to what America stands for, I think people have to come out and do something about it. And I endorsed Mr. Latimer the first week that he announced. The people who didn't endorse him were the people who shoved me off the stage so they could stand next to him when he won.
Oh, by the way, thank you. I want to say thank you for kicking Jamal Bowman's butt because some of his comments were so reprehensible. Bravo, bravo.
I should get a big page
Listen,
in the New York Post with
a fire alarm.
With Governor Patterson knocking out Bowman.
Yeah,
Listen,
that'd be good.
Mr. Bowman, Congressman Bowman, when he was in office, I called his office 3 times on behalf of a family of a young Asian student who wanted to go to West Point. They wanted a letter from the Congress member. They never even got to know what I was calling about because they didn't return my call 3 times. So a reporter asked me Tuesday night, what do you have to say to Mr. Bowman now? And I told the reporter, I've arranged for his phone to be disconnected January 1st.
Oh, and Judge Weinberg, what do you think?
First thing I want to say is I'm proud to still be a Democrat as long as we have the leadership of Governor Patterson.
Bravo.
That's number
bravo.
one. And number 2, I think generally debates really don't matter, but I think this debate will matter because the future of this country is at stake.
Yeah, I agree. Well, tonight on WABC Radio, it's going to be me and the great Bill O'Reilly. We are going to be taking you through it and also giving a great analysis and play-by-play. Who better than the great mega best-selling author and also the host of Common Sense with Bill O'Reilly. The debate, of course, starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And joining us is the great Bill O'Reilly. Bill, you believe this will be, I think you said, the second most important debate in American history. Explain.
Okay, it sounds like a little exaggeration, but if you step back and look at the country, I think I can make a case. So Lincoln Douglas was the first debate that really shaped how we live today, and that happened in 1858 between Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas running for the Senate in Illinois. And Douglas beat Lincoln. But in the debate, which was 3 hours long and no TV, Abraham Lincoln established himself as an anti-slavery politician very eloquently, and that carried him into the White House 2 years later. And Abraham Lincoln is our best president by far of all time, and you'll see that in my upcoming book, Confronting the Presidents, which will be out in September. By contrast, this debate now, very few people understand the long-term implications of it. It's not Trump and Biden. That's not really what's going on. It's about the American system of government. So Joe Biden, as everyone knows, and it is indisputable, it is not debatable, is a progressive leftist. That's how he governs. What does that mean? It means that the government should control the American economy and how Americans live. It's not a free marketplace any longer if the progressives take power. Biden does exactly what they tell him to do and has for 3.5 years, which is why you have an open border, which is why you have an attack on the fossil fuel industry, which is why you have a foreign policy of appeasement and sometimes surrender, as we saw in Afghanistan. Those are all progressive tenets. If Biden is elected again in November, there will be no restraints on him. None. And it will be on steroids. One example. Most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 50% have no more than $500 in the bank. Think about that. They have no money. They're tapped out. They get by because we have good employment numbers, but they have no reserves. Something bad happens to them, they're hosed. Biden is saying openly that he wants to raise the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%, which would put it over 30% in many states, the corporate tax rate. Well, who do you think is going to pay for that tax rise? The corporations and companies that you buy everything from, everything, are going to pass that along to you. And you think that you're paying more for stuff now? Where do you see if that ever got through? That's what the progressives want. They want the individual American to be powerless. They want the federal government to dictate who has what, who gets what. And that is where Joe Biden is firmly grounded, right there. And if you vote for him in November, that's what you are voting for.
Your inflation rates will continue to go higher.
Everything will go higher, John. And I listed today on my television program, the No Spin News, I listed food, fuel, insurance, home and car, mortgage. Every single thing in our lives is up double digits under Biden. Everything. Yet millions of Americans would still vote for him. Are they stupid? Some of them. But most of them are apathetic. They don't understand, and they are being misled by a corporate media that incredibly has actually bought into this progressive vision. So the debate tonight, if Biden doesn't make it through the debate, if he falters, he's through. He's done. Will not come back. He'll lose. But if he gets through it, it's going to be a real close race till November.
What do you make of Nate Silver? Did you see Nate Silver, of course?
He doesn't impress me. Well, all he did, I believe, Nate Silver is a political analyst, and he gives Trump a 65% chance of winning the electoral vote now. What he's doing is he's mirroring what they have in London at Ladbroke, which is the place where you can actually bet money, big money, on a presidential race. You cannot bet on the presidential race in the United States. Against the law, no one will take your action. Can't go to Vegas, can't go to Atlantic City. You can't do it. You can do it with a bookie, I guess, but you can't do it legally. Ladbroke has Trump at about 65% chance of winning. And that's where I think Silver took what he said. And Silver's a left-leaning guy, so it was an interesting comment.
Right.
That's where I got some ink.
What do you think, Bill O'Reilly, about the moderators tonight? Because, boy, if you look at the history of Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, some of the comments that specifically Jake Tapper, where he's like dipped out of Trump when he talked about the border, saying, oh, what's he talking about? Do you think it's going to be Trump against three?
I think that CNN is in so much trouble economically, and I'm hoping, John.
Oops, did we lose you there, Bill? Hang on, we may be having a little.
I think when he mentioned CNN, he was immediately cut off.
Yeah, that was it. He was having. I think he was about to say maybe John buys CNN. I think maybe that was the next. I'm not. You know his point though.
The
about
Ashland computers in Canada shut him off.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. One of the things though is going to be interesting to watch you guys and hear here on WABC is the dynamic of the moderators, because I played last night on my show where Jake Tapper referred to Trump as Hitler. You've got that. You've got, obviously, he's battling Biden. He's battling the other moderator. Do you think, Ed, it's going to be 3 against 1?
No, I think they're going to want to clean up their act because people such as you have pointed out this problem. And CNN is under new management that wants to go more down the middle.
The world is watching.
They don't want to get fired.
Yeah. Governor?
The Republican chair on this occasion speaks for me.
On this occasion.
On a lot of occasions, but this is a big one. The debate is
Did we
tonight.
get Bill O'Reilly back yet? What's going on?
We're working on it. Judge Weinberg, your thoughts about the role and how would you handle that if you've got suddenly, because the moderators do play a big role. I've moderated a number of debates, and where I think it's going to be interesting is the follow-ups, because the moderators have some latitude to say, I'm going to do a follow-up to that, or I'm not going to do a follow-up.
Well, Rita, when you were the moderator, and of course, you're a very opinionated person.
Only with you guys.
Yes. But I would think at a time, and this is really what I was talking about, is that you're going to be judged for all time.
Yep.
The candidates are going to go, one's going to win, one's going to lose, but you're still there. And particularly at CNN, I don't think that'd be a good time to make Trump look bad. I mean, I'll just say this one thing. When I was in office and I had to debate candidates when I was running for re-election, I loved when the moderators were negative toward me and supporting the other candidates, because it really gives you a chance to look like you're fighting the government as much as you're fighting to win an election.
Yeah, and you can win it. I think of Newt Gingrich, who we've had on the show. He was brilliant. I understand we got Bill back. Bill, you were talking about CNN, and then it dropped off, so that maybe someone's listening.
They're still listening.
Yeah, they're still listening. Bill, we're working on it. Bill, can you hear us? We're going to try to get Bill back as we're in the middle of all this. But I think your point, Governor Patterson, about it's sort of the taking on. I brought up Newt Gingrich because Newt was masterful. Remember when he had those? It was in a primary, and he really took it to like all the moderators that moment, Ed.
Yeah, no, look, the tough questions are the questions you can really play off of and do very well. So you don't mind a tough question. You do mind a snide question. That's a different issue.
But remember, the polls make it very clear that people do not trust or like the media. And therefore, they have to be very, very careful. Because if their bias is showing, that's a real problem in terms of the legacy of CNN and their personal legacies. And to your point, Rita, Newt Gingrich was absolutely brilliant when he did that. And if Trump can turn around, if they go after him or they cut him off and he handles them properly and puts them in their place, he'll actually win points on that.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go back to Bill O'Reilly. I understand we do have him again. Bill, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's going on here. I think CNN is tapping my phone, and then
that's what we figured.
So where I left you was I hope Catsimatidis buys CNN because it's not going to be in business much longer, and that's not hyperbole. I checked their ratings 2 nights ago. They're down about 400,000 for prime time.
Wow!
You could put 5 parakeets on in prime time if they can talk, and you could get 400,000 people to watch 5 parakeets.
I think WABC has more.
Yeah, by far.
And we only use 2 parakeets.
It's a colossal collapse. And the new CEO, this guy Thompson, he has given instructions, I understand, to both Tapper and Bash not to be partisan idiots. It's going to be hard for Tapper. I mean, he's a real Trump hater. He hates Trump personally. Bash, I think she does what she's told pretty much. But remember the format in this. So they'll be able to ask the questions, and they're going to have to ask tough questions of both candidates. They'll have to, because if they don't, everybody will just kill them. But that doesn't mean the candidates have to answer the questions. In the format that they have, the opposition is muted. And so you can ask Trump, hey, it's Thursday. Do you like Thursday? And he can talk about anything he wants. He's going to answer the question if he wants to. And if he doesn't want to, he'll wander into someplace else. That's why Biden was 7 days at Camp David. Because what they did with Biden for 7 days is they had him memorize about 15 answers. They're anticipating border questions, inflation questions, Ukraine, Israel, abortion, and they'll be big on abortion. CNN will go heavy on abortion. So they're anticipating that Biden will be asked certain questions. So they gave him a primer. Here's what you say when asked. Now, the drama is whether Biden can remember what he has memorized.
Right. No notes. No notes. Again, no props. Just a blank notepad.
Proctor.
Right.
Right. And
that's a challenge.
Believe me, if he cannot get through it, if he's bumbling and fumbling, they'll dump him. He will not be the candidate. He'll do what LBJ did in '68 and say, I've had enough. I'm going to throw my delegates to whoever the convention thinks should run.
My first question would be, Mr. Biden, President Biden, why did you not give RFK Secret Service protection? His father died, and his uncle both died, and you could be next.
That's an excellent question. And I have not even thought of that, which strikes me that I'm guilty of dereliction of duty. My top question for him is this, for Biden. Your open border policy has cost the U.S. taxpayer $151 billion. And that's just federal spending. Cities of New York, Chicago, St. Louis, Miami are going bankrupt because of all the migrants flooding in that they have to support. Why did you change the Remain in Mexico policy that had this problem contained?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and you know what I would add to that, Bill? I would add, plus you've cut city services in a lot of departments, too, as a result of it. Governor Patterson.
Bill, you really think that if Biden really flubs this debate that he'll be out and he'll put someone else in? That's a very difficult undertaking at this particular point. If he were just a candidate, as former President Trump is, that'd be one thing. But he's still the president and lives in the White House.
But he has the power to resign anytime he wants. And why do you think, Governor, that they're having this debate on June 27th? It's the Democrats that pushed this debate. This is not a debate that's nonpartisan, both sides. This is a Democratic Party debate. And they got CNN, who's allied with the Democratic Party, to run it, and then they invited Trump, and Trump accepted.
Okay, I agree.
Why do you think they did the June 27th?
I agree with you there. But what I would say is if he does really do that badly, whoever takes his place is going to get slaughtered.
Well, let's hope so. And I say that not as a Republican. I'm a registered independent. Because if the Democratic Party is going to throw in with the progressive movement, which it has, I don't want to live in a socialist government. I don't want to live that way. And I don't think most Americans do either, but they don't understand what's taking place before their eyes. And we New Yorkers should understand it most of all.
Well, you're right about that, because I don't want to live in that kind of society either.
Right. And New York is the most heavily taxed state in the union, where it's almost impossible for working people to get ahead. And you see the social disorder under the progressive left. You see it right in your face. Every time you walk out in the city streets, you see it.
Yeah, we sure do.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, we've got it. Ed Cox has a quick question for you, Bill O'Reilly.
Bill, do you think that the folks around Biden expected Trump to accept their very tough terms for the debate?
Yeah, because Trump has nothing to lose here. I mean, these people who say he's insane, cable news people who have IQs of pears.
Don't insult pears.
No, you're right. You get a better conversation from a pear with a little face on it. Last week they were going, oh, Trump's not going to show up. I'm going, what, are you out of your mind?
Oh,
Trump thinks he could beat Biden, what is it? Both hands tied behind his back and his tongue behind his ear?
And a blindfold.
Right. So, and I don't know whether that's true. We're certainly going to find out. But Trump is much more glib than Biden. And Trump's
problem is he gets out of control. He can't tonight be mean. He cannot be mean. He needs women to vote for him. And most women don't like mean guys. So he's got to tamp it down. And Biden will be bear baiting him all night long. You're a felon, you're this, you're that, blah, 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 blah. Trump has got to maintain his cool and just stay in the policy range.
Bill
if
O'Reilly.
Trump does that, he wins.
Bill O'Reilly, I'll be listening to you and Rita tonight at 9 o'clock to whatever time, and God bless you and God bless America, and let's hope for a good outcome.
Thanks for having me in, guys.
Thank you, Bill. Can't wait, Bill.
And now we have some breaking news, or what?
Yeah, after the break, we've got John Solomon is going to join us with some big breaking news, maybe some things that are going to come up in the debate tonight. Stay with us.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC. Breaking news, WABC.
And joining us now with some big breaking news, maybe some things that might come up in the debate tonight, is John Solomon. He, of course, is the founder and great investigative journalist with Just the News. John, what do you got?
Well, it's debate night. It's a historic night, right? The first time that two candidates have been debating in the general election before they're even nominated. Think about that. The nomination conventions are months away. But it's very consequential. It was 43 months ago this month that Joe Biden looked into the camera and said, I didn't take money. My family didn't take money from China. I didn't meet with my son's business partners. And that laptop, well, it's Russian disinformation. Neither of those three statements are true. And what we've learned since then is that the effort to deceive the American public about the Biden family's foreign influence business has continued. New documents that we made public this morning, they come from the FBI. The FBI had these documents in 2016 from Hunter Biden. They show that Hunter Biden actually signed an employment contract and worked for a firm called Burnham. It was a securities firm. Why is that important? Well, Burnham's been pretty controversial. Some of its employees got convicted of a tribal bond scheme. Those employees were friends and partners of Hunter Biden. It also was a firm that was working with a controversial Russian oligarch that's been in the news a lot lately. Well, Hunter Biden in February, just a few months ago, told the House investigators he didn't have anything to do with the company. He thought he was going to get a job there. It never came to fruition. Well, we have now made public an employment contract. He signed an employment contract. He was the vice chairman. He was a board member. He conducted Burnham business. Those documents directly contradict and conflict with what Hunter Biden told the committee. A lot of lawmakers upset with that and expecting another criminal referral.
And, John, before you go further, did he testify under oath? Was that under oath? And just as you said, could that be a referral?
Well, you don't have to be under oath to be referred to lying to Congress. Just making a statement to Congress is enough. They did not swear people in for these depositions and for these interviews, so he was not under oath, but he can still be prosecuted. And as you saw just a few weeks ago, some earlier statements he made that have been contradicted by evidence, he was just referred for prosecution in the same one. But this one is perhaps the most jaw-dropping. His signature is sitting on a document saying, I'm the vice chairman, and I'm also a board member. There's no chance that Hunter Biden could not remember that, or he should have at least researched it before he gave his answers to Congress. Andy Biggs, the lawmaker who actually asked those set of questions that elicited the testimony, says he expects Hunter Biden to be referred anew for prosecution for lying to Congress. We'll see if that happens in the next few days.
You know, John, you also have another big blockbuster about the 51 Intel folks who signed the letter saying that the laptop that Hunter had looks like Russian disinformation. Of course, we know that it looks like it was a concerted effort to help Joe Biden. Now the transcripts reinforce that. Talk about that, because that could be a big deal tonight at the debate.
House Judiciary Committee released about a half dozen of the 51 who they interviewed. There's a common theme. None of them had any evidentiary or fact basis to say that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation. They had no intelligence. Nothing told them that. And almost all of them said that they were trying to help Joe Biden. So it was a political, evidence-free intelligence declaration that they made, very important. And I think people are going to remember back. They trusted the Bidens in 2020. They trusted those 51 people. There's a little bit of dating remorse and maybe a little dating rebound that might be going on in tonight's debate.
John Katzmatidis, how could 51 security people, ex-CIA, ex-national security, ex-whatever else they were, sign a document like that, and it's completely false?
Yeah, and not even have a basis for it. And sometimes you write something and it sounds fishy, but at least you had something to hang your hat on. There's nothing to hang your hat on. It's a really great question, and I think it goes to the broader question, which is, have we created these institutions and people in these institutions now who are more concerned about political outcomes than intelligence and security or legal outcomes? And I think that's on the ballot in November. It's a very important moment. And it's interesting. Joe Biden has spent the last 2 years since the Red Wall speech saying, democracy's at stake, democracy at stake. There's an amazing poll in the Washington Post right here in my hometown today. It shows that strategy's backfired in the swing state voters poll they just did. Actually, voters in those swing states think Donald Trump's more trustworthy on democracy than Joe Biden. Why? Because so many Americans believe what went on with the intelligence agents, what's going on with these criminal cases, what went on with Russia collusion isn't American. It isn't.
Well, John Solomon, it seems like half the things we hear in Washington are one big lie.
Yeah, I think that may be our new vacation cycle. Come to D.C. It's one big lie. You're right. I think you're right, John. I think the distrust for Washington not only is palpable and large, it's probably well earned from the last 4 or 5 years of its behavior.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see if these topics come up tonight in the debate. John Solomon, thank you so much. Some big blockbusters.
Great to be with you guys.
Thank you. One big lie. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, how can 51 ex-CIA, ex-national security, ex-everything else certify that, what they certified? That they certified that Trump is a puppet of Moscow.
Well, listen, it's very clear. And when you listen to Miranda Devine, will be on later, she'll show you the linkage. They wrote this letter that was all about claiming that the laptop was disinformation. And now Miranda's come up with very important information.
Well, that's still later on. Let's go to some hot news with Rita right now.
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
Well, as you heard here at the top of Cats and Cosby, President Biden and former President Trump are preparing to debate in a matter of hours tonight in Atlanta. The 90-minute debate with a new format is going to air right here on WABC Radio with me and Bill O'Reilly also giving play-by-play and expert analysis. Also, John, you talked about RFK Jr. RFK Jr. believes that Trump is going to win the debate. He calls Trump the greatest debater in modern American history. We'll all be tuning in tonight here on WABC. The Supreme Court is dismissing an appeal by Idaho officials that would ban emergency room doctors from performing abortions. This means a lower court ruling that allows doctors to perform abortions in emergency situations will stay in effect for the time being. And finally, evacuations are underway in a Chicago suburb after a train derailment there. Multiple cars from the Canadian National Railway Company train derailed this morning with at least one train leaking an unidentified substance. And those are the hot stories of Cats and Cosby of the day.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
We're back. And who do we have on now, Rita?
We have the great Congressman Michael Waltz from Florida, former Green Beret. Congressman, we're talking, of course, about the debate. And one of the big issues as President Trump is arriving right now in Atlanta, preparing for the debate, which we're going to hear here on WABC Radio in a matter of hours. Congressman, the border and national security, international security, that's going to be a huge issue. I couldn't believe it. Mayorkas yesterday saying, security is a priority for the Biden administration. And, we essentially take no responsibility. That was a stunning moment. Of course, we're going to be watching tonight to see that, too, as well.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible and frankly disgusting to see Mayorkas shrug his shoulders on the situation of the border when we have an ISIS smuggling network, facilitation network, out of Central Asia, Tajikistan, that's pumped more than literally almost 500 people now across our border that we know of, that we've encountered. That's not counting the gotaways, where we have no idea. 8 of those were actively plotting and planning for an attack. Fortunately, they were stopped and arrested in multiple cities. But there's another 50 guys that we just don't know. We don't know where they are. We don't know. They could be number 3 in ISIS, or a low-level fighter, or just a migrant that they helped smuggle across. But that's over 50 individuals that we know of that are somewhere in the United States right now as we speak. And what does Mayorkas do? He tries to parse words and say, well, they're not necessarily terrorists, so that's inaccurate reporting, what they said to the Fox News reporter. And, this is why we impeached the guy, and he's got to go.
Congressman, where are the 30,000, the Chinese military age?
That's right. Yeah, from just a few hundred a few years ago that we knew of, now over 30,000, and I could tell you as someone on the Intelligence Committee, Foreign Affairs, and Armed Services Committee, that many people do not leave that communist dictatorship without the government's blessing. At the same time, we're having gate crashers in our military bases. We're having a huge uptick in spying. You have the FBI director saying they're opening a new espionage case against China every 12 hours, literally every day. And again, a shoulder shrug from DHS. And you've got Chris Wray, the FBI director, telling our committees that another attack is just a matter of time. He's never seen so many alarm bells ringing at the same time.
You know what I was astounded about, Congressman, when Mayorkas was talking, you used the word sort of nonchalant. I agree. It was so chilling to me to see. It was like, next question. Like he was angry at the question as opposed to the substance of the question. And there were a lot of reporters asking him these questions, also asking about some of these horrible migrant crimes that have taken place. Today is the funeral, sadly, for the 12-year-old girl in Houston who was allegedly brutally killed by these 2 illegal migrants from Venezuela. And yet the White House doesn't even seem to want to talk about it. There were a whole bunch of media like following a number of members of Congress down the halls the other day, Democratic members of Congress. They said, we don't know anything about it. They were asking about all these recent cases. They're on the front page of every newspaper in the country, and they're trying to act like it doesn't happen.
My heart breaks for that family as the father of a daughter. I just can't imagine. I hope President Trump just stands on the stage tonight and challenges Biden to say their names. Not only their names, this 12-year-old girl, the 13-year-old in New York, Laken Riley, the Maryland mother of 5. I mean, we can all go down the list.
Right, Rachel Morin, right.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you'll remember at the State of the Union, the Afghanistan Abbeygate Gold Star family, Steve Nakui, just in outrage, yelling out that Biden in 3 years has never said the word Afghanistan, much less the 13 Gold Star members. So Biden ran on being the compassionate one and being the competent one. We've seen over and over again how incompetent this administration is, but I think this just proves how cold-hearted, frankly, they are, from Mayorkas to Biden himself. It is death and destruction all over the world, right here in our inner cities, with crime spiking, migrant, literally rape and murder of American citizens. And it's just this kind of technocratic, bureaucratic shoulder shrug. I've never seen anything like it. And so I really hope that comes out tonight, because we see it on Capitol Hill week in and week out from his minions.
Yeah, just like fentanyl, because the president never discusses fentanyl. And as we've talked about here on the show, 100,000 Americans killed every year from fentanyl, because if you start bringing attention to fentanyl, how do they get it? It comes across the border.
That's right. Well, that's right. And just one more reason I've introduced legislation to go on offense against the cartels, to use military resources. We know how to take down networks. You change the name from Sinaloa or Jalisco to ISIS and Al-Qaeda, it wouldn't even be a debate. we would be taking these cartels down through cyber, through space, through, I don't care if there's a drone missile going through their window. Anybody else was poisoning 100,000 Americans a year. We wouldn't just be sitting back and taking it, much less the President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief, not even mentioning it. So I think all of that's going to come out tonight loud and clear.
Well, thank you, Congressman, for keep your eyes open, and we have to protect our country.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Was willing to die to do it, and now we're on a different kind of front lines up in D.C.
Oh, thank you so much. And we have some breaking news from about electric vehicles from Andrew Stutterford. And Andrew, tell us what the heck is going on with electric vehicles. There was some breaking news today that I was shocked about.
Yeah, the numbers were like
47% of electric vehicle owners say they'll never buy an electric vehicle again, or something like that.
I want to know who are the 53 that want to keep them.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I was shocked, truly shocked by this news. I mean, how can you not like driving a car where a fast charge, if you're lucky to find one, will only take you 20 minutes to half an hour, or that you have to keep plugged in sort of half the day, or that won't work properly in the cold, that may cost more to insure. People just aren't grateful. That's the only way I see it.
Now, it also came out that some of the owners that owned Teslas for 2 years, the batteries refused to charge after 2 years, and Tesla quoted them $50,000 for a new battery.
Yep, I didn't see that, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised about the cost, because you've got to remember. Well, I know you know this. The cost of the battery is a gigantic part of the cost of the car and of an EV. And one of the interesting things is, if the EV, what sort of battery are you getting when you buy a second-hand EV? And will the battery, you buy a car, you hope it's going to last. But if you buy an EV, you might have to be buying a battery. I think 2 years certainly would be exceptional. But if you had to buy a new battery after 6 or 7 or 8 years, you're sort of buying another car again.
So these people are what? They're just throwing away those cars, or what are they doing?
No. I would imagine that they're selling them on the second-hand market, but they won't on the used car market. But they will not be getting a very good price.
Now, by the way, to our audience, we're talking to Andrew Stutterford, who is with National Review, and he's an editor there and handles capital markets. And what else do you handle there besides capital markets, Andrew?
Well, I do. I basically write about, two areas, really. One is sort of finance, economics, and business, and that can mean just about anything. And the other side is, wearing my just ordinary National Review hat, I normally write about international affairs, a lot of it in Europe.
Andrew, Hertz, they were stuck with a whole bunch of electric vehicles. Did they ever sell them?
They tried to sell them, and I imagine that they are continuing to try to sell them. I have seen sort of in the secondary market talk about ex-Hertz EVs floating around, and there's always a price.
Or you can use them for paperweights.
Or you could use them as maybe a sort of advertisement outside your house to show that you care about the planet. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go. But no, I mean, it was a disaster for Hertz. It cost them far, far more to maintain. And also, if you think about it, which I don't think they did, would you rent an EV? I mean, for example, if you arrive in a new town, you're a typical user of an EV, a typical ordinary car buyer, which most people do buy traditional cars still and drive them. And you arrive in a new car at the airport, and oh, you're in luck. You've got an EV. Good grief. And there were various horror stories about people who'd had absolute nightmare journeys. And I think with a rented Hertz, because Hertz committed very, very heavily to EVs, and the people, the people were there was no real
teaching for some of the new drivers. So how safe is that? And more to the point, they didn't know where to charge their cars. And above all, that's the problem. I mean, when you read now, people are talking about EV charging deserts. And imagine you're a stranger in a strange town, and you don't know where to go.
Andrew, Judge Richard Weinberg, you had a question?
Andrew, there was a decision by the Supreme Court of the United States turning aside, at least temporarily, new EPA rules about the downwinds, saying that they had overreached. So there was a lawsuit by about 25 of the states against the federal EPA. Can you tell us about that?
Frankly, I missed it. What were they saying?
The answer is that there's a history of the Supreme Court pushing back against EPA overregulation when it's beyond their authority. And what the states had said was, imposing these rules, we're unable to do it technologically. We don't have the ability to do it. It's too costly. And the Supreme Court turned the EPA back on its tail and said, no, these rules will not be implemented. There needs a lot more study. There needs to be more litigation going through. We're pushing back again. So this is about the third major time that the EPA under the Biden administration has been told you're overreaching beyond your authority and you're causing chaos.
Yeah, here we are. You're talking downwind on the power plant.
Exactly right.
That's right. Sorry, I was just Googling frantically. I've been traveling for 2 days. Yes, I mean, as always, what the EPA is doing is saying, here are the technological standards that we want. Now you go and deliver them. And, they're sitting in their offices. They're delivering their mandates. They're like Soviet central planners. So they're saying, you fix it. And, of course, a lot of these mandates are undoable. And it's as true of very often of electric vehicles as it is of the power plants. And if we go to the power plant situation, the two connect, because if we are going to be installing, if we're going to be making everyone drive EVs or trying to, quote, encourage them to drive EVs, how are they going to, where's the electricity, where's the power going to come from to power them? Particularly now, and I don't know whether you've been following this, if we take off into the sort of AI revolution, the demands on electricity coming from AI are going to be absolutely enormous.
Andrew, we're out of time. We're out of time. But we want to talk to you further, so we're going to talk to you again another day, and we're going to carry on this conversation.
Look forward to it.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And we have some breaking news, I understand.
Breaking news, WABC.
Yeah, according to Axios Media, Michelle Obama does not want to campaign for Biden. There's a report, John, and everybody, that they are very upset, the Obamas, because they're close to Hunter Biden's ex-wife. And she's the mother of the three eldest kids of Hunter Biden. They had a very messy divorce. He is accused of cheating and blowing the family savings on drugs and prostitutes, apparently a very ugly divorce. And she is super close to Kathleen Buell. And apparently because of that, you have not seen her out on the campaign trail.
Wow. Okay. Let's take a break. And when we come back, there's going to be some more breaking news with Miranda Devine.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Let's see tonight if there will be a focus on what was a lot of discussion. Remember in the 2020 debate where they talked about the laptop and Joe Biden said, they said it's Russian disinformation. Well, we know the laptop is real. And we also have the reporter who had so many huge scoops on all of this. Miranda Devine, of course, with the New York Post. Miranda, you also had another big scoop on the 51 Intel folks, because that was another big one. You call it sort of the dirty 51, because who could forget that moment in the 2020 debate where Joe Biden was 51 Intel agents say it's Russian disinformation. The laptop's not real. Tell us what you know. You have some more great scoops.
Well, this is actually care of the Judiciary Committee in the House, and they've interviewed the number 3 at the CIA at the time of the 2020 election, and have found that that letter, signed and written by 51 former intelligence officials, we were told, actually was cleared by the highest echelons of the CIA. This Andrew McCreadis, who was then the chief operating officer of the CIA, has testified that he walked across the corridor and showed the Dirty 51 letter that dishonestly, falsely claimed that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. He showed that to the CIA director and the deputy director. That would be Gina Haspel and her deputy. And so we also know that a couple of those Dirty 51 were on the payroll of the CIA at the time. They were active contractors, at least 2 of them, probably more. And we also know that a serving CIA employee, at least one, was helping recruit people to sign. So this was a CIA dirty tricks operation to rig the election, to favour, to bury derogatory information about their favoured candidate, Joe Biden. And, imagine if they hadn't done that, our story hadn't been suppressed and they helped suppress it, Joe Biden wouldn't have had a get-out-of-jail-free card at his last debate, last time he met with Donald Trump on stage. And the election, as we know from polls, if more of the public, those Biden voters, had known about this influence peddling operation, this corruption of Joe Biden, they would have changed their vote. And in a very close election that was decided by 45,000 voters, that could have changed the outcome. And imagine this country, we would not have 8 million plus illegal migrants here raping and pillaging. We wouldn't have Laken Riley dead and Rachel Morin dead and another little girl dead and raped. And we wouldn't have probably a war in Ukraine or a war in Gaza.
And the price of oil being almost double, and the price of interest rates being triple, and the price of food being up 30 or 40%.
Exactly. And look, I think this is what we'll see in the debate tonight, that, I don't know if Donald Trump will get the chance to raise the fact that the last time he and Joe Biden met, Joe Biden looked down the barrel of the camera and lied to the American people and said, basically, that laptop is a Russian plant. It's a bunch of garbage. My son never made any money from China. That was exactly what he said, knowing it was a lie. I doubt very much whether Jake Tapper or Dana Bash is going to bring that up, but it would be great if Donald Trump could at least tell the American people that this guy, this president who pretends to be, a paragon of virtue and of great character compared to Trump, actually got up there and bald-faced lied.
Yeah, and listen, he could certainly turn the tables, even if they don't ask, and pose the question, say, hey, why, don't you owe the American public an apology? Or Jake and Dana, why are you not asking about? It'll be interesting, if he can do that. Governor Patterson, you have a question for Miranda Devine.
Miranda, I would think that information as devastating as that is at the former president's desk at this moment. And it would be surprising if he didn't bring it up, because it's pretty damning. At the same time, I guess what Biden would try to say is that was the information at the time. It turned out not to be right. But I don't even think he'd say that.
Well, it's just implausible that he could say that, because it was his son's laptop. He knew that it wasn't Russian disinformation. And,
And Blinken is the one who chased up the letter. With Morrell.
Exactly. Antony Blinken, now Secretary of State, then a senior advisor, he was the one who phoned former acting director Mike Morrell and instigated the letter. And Morrell has testified to Congress and said he never had the idea until Blinken called him, put the idea in his head, and then followed up with an email, some bogus email from USA Today, from anonymous sources, intelligence sources, same people probably, CIA, saying that it was Russian disinformation laptop, and it wasn't. Had nothing to do with that. They knew it. The FBI knew. They had the laptop since December 2019. The CIA knew. Of course they knew. We pay these entities billions of dollars to keep Americans safe. We do not pay them to interfere in our elections, to do basically a domestic regime change operation because they preferred Biden over Trump.
I heard a story from one of our mutual friends, Miranda, that when the FBI went in and took the laptop away, they forgot to ask the question, is this the only laptop? And I understand there was 4 of them.
Wow.
3 other backups.
Yeah, well, not is this the only laptop, is this the only copy of the hard drive. So John Paul McIsaac, the computer shop operator, gave the FBI the laptop and also gave them a hard drive copy. But he had uploaded the entire laptop because he was trying to rescue the contents because it was waterlogged. He'd uploaded it to his server at his shop so he could make as many copies as he wanted, and he did make a copy and send it to Rudy Giuliani, who then gave it to us.
Wow. Ed Cox?
So Miranda, there is this letter that has been signed by a bunch of Nobel laureates.
Surprise, surprise, yes. On the eve of another debate, Ed.
Disparaging what the future would be under a President Trump economically, which is a major issue. Do you think Biden would dare raise it in this debate under these circumstances?
The campaign's already talking about that. By the way, the campaign is.
Oh, I'm sure he will. I'm sure it was written specifically for him to have a talking point about the economy, which has been a disaster under him. And you know, it's the same old, I don't know if it works with anyone anymore, this appeal to experts, but those same experts sounded the exact same warning about Trump back in 2016, and they were completely and utterly wrong. The economy was singing under Trump. And you know, the 51 Intel, the 16 Nobel Prize, no one is buying it anymore because these are partisans. They're pretending, they're abusing the expertise and the high status that they had and actually destroying their own high status by doing this. I don't understand it, but it's really squandering what used to be in this country. There were great experts and people that you could rely on, but not anymore because they've just become partisan hacks.
Well, we're going to be watching tonight for the debate, Miranda, how much of maybe the laptop, the 51 Intels. Boy, we're going to be on pins and needles, and we're going to be covering it here on WABC. Wow.
It's going to be a big night.
Yeah,
and
huge
Rita
night.
and Bill O'Reilly, I'll be listening to you guys to
to
hear your comments.
I can't wait. Miranda, we're going to be glued to see if some of your great work is going to be talked about. Thank you, Miranda.
And what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
God bless America.
Rita, the show's ending.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.